You're watching NRATV with Bill Whittle.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hot Mike Show live from Los Angeles. I'm Bill Whittle, and Hot Mike took a long walk on a short pier, so they're trying to dry him off. He's being 4 or 5 blow dryers at work on him now in the very dressing room, so with any luck, we'll have him back for the second half of the show today. Hey, speaking of piers, today I'd like to talk about these people that seem to be kind of our tour guides on the road to oblivion. I'm utterly convinced that when Western civilization ends, if it ends, it's not going to end on my watch, I can tell you that much, and yours either. But if it ends, I'm sure it's going to be announced by the BBC. And the last voice that we're going to hear is going to be one of these very Tony British voices, very cultured, advising us on why everything had to go down and what awful people we are, and how anyone with any sense of, style or any sense of sensitivity at all really would just understand completely that Western civilization just deserved to die. And one of the people that are like that is a guy named Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan is a perfect example of these kind of insulated, vain, uneducated people. They live in isolation. They're free from the consequences of their beliefs, which they not only hold, but which they have to impose upon everybody else. It's one thing to be a middle-minded British twit yourself, but that doesn't mean you have to force everybody else down to that level. Now, Piers is known for the occasional tweet, and we got one from him today. And this is the kind of deep thinking that I want to talk about, because these are the people, don't forget now, these are the people who are our moral superiors. And not just our moral superiors, they're our moral and intellectual superiors. And these are the people that determine what to think and how. Piers Morgan tweeted, "Both the First and Second Amendments should be amended again, in my humble opinion, to ban Nazis and reduce gun deaths." Well, let's get started on that, shall we? Here's the first thing, Piers. The amendments don't need to be amended again. The amendments aren't amended. The amendments are amendment to the Constitution. You're talking about amending the Constitution again. The amendments don't get amended. Just a little thing, but it's, kind of thing that people lose points for on style. Piers then goes on to say, start this tweet with, in my humble opinion, please, Piers, honestly, this Constitution's had 228 years of history. It was put together by the greatest minds that ever walked this planet in a group of them together that has never been seen before, and I don't think ever will be seen again in the history of the human race. These people, the founding fathers, spent a lifetime. They just get together for a couple weeks to throw this thing together. They had spent a lifetime studying government, studying people, studying tyranny, studying stupidity, studying laziness, studying hard work, all of it. And they all brought all of these different experiences together, and they managed to craft a document that found a way to leave people alone without letting idiots like Piers Morgan screw it up. That's quite an achievement. And it's a lot more of an intellectual achievement than First and Second Amendment should be amended again, in my humble opinion, to ban Nazis and reduce gun deaths. So let's explore just a little bit the moral character and the deep philosophical base of Piers Morgan, who feels that it's his obligation as an incredibly refined member of the news media to inform us knuckle-dragging savages out here in flyover country just exactly how we should be taking our freedom. So let's just talk a little bit about Piers before we get to our guest today. Piers Morgan got started as a tabloid editor in the United Kingdom. He was the editor of the Daily Mirror during the phone hacking scandal. And that's when people at the newspaper were illegally wiretapping celebrities. They were wiretapping the royal family, all of it illegal, in order to get these tabloid stories. He was the editor there. Actually, I'm not sure he was the editor there. He was there at the Daily Mail. In any event, not only did they tap the phones of the royal family, they managed to find photos of a girl who was murdered, a young school girl who was murdered, and they managed to get photos of British war dead's families coming home, and photos of bomb victims. This kind of bottom-dwelling slime. Piers was basically brought before a committee about this, and he said This is what Piers said. He said, Morgan denied ever having backed a phone or, quote, to my knowledge, published any story obtained from the hacking of a phone, unquote. This was in front of the Levinson Committee, and Chairman Levinson went on to say that Morgan's testimony about phone hacking was utterly unpersuasive and clearly proves that he was aware that it was taking place in the press as a whole and that he was sufficiently unembarrassed by what was criminal behavior that he was prepared to joke about it. So, point number one, Piers Morgan is a dirtbag and he's a liar. He did these ridiculous, low, illegal things to sell newspapers and ruin people's lives, and then he lied about it. So there's that to begin with. Number two, Piers has not had what we would call a stellar trajectory lately. 2011, he came to CNN, the home of fake news, and from 2011 to 2014, he was host of Piers Morgan Live, which replaced Larry King Live, but he pretty much tanked the ratings on that show. And during the show, the run of his show, the 4 years of his show, we got a chance to see his utter misunderstanding of this country, Constitution, everything we believe in, and not just his misunderstanding of it, but his contempt for it as well. Now, this person who's going to opine on the quality of the First and Second Amendment also was a judge on America's Got Talent and Britain's Got Talent. And he was, in fact, in 2008, he won the 7th season of Celebrity Apprentice. So you can see that his qualifications to basically comment on something as important as the First and Second Amendment are really pretty unparalleled. And one final thing about our friend Piers Morgan, ladies and gentlemen. Piers has written 8 books so far. He's 52 years old. He's written 8 books. 4 are memoirs. 4 books at 52 about himself. This is the kind of narcissism that we're going to get to in a minute. So we have a guest joining us today, Jan Morgan of janmorganmedia.com. She's on the phone. We couldn't get the video link. She's in an undisclosed location where she should be having a good time, apparently. But she's a Second Amendment defender and a big advocate for freedom. So, Jan, I guess you're out there. Can you hear me?
Yes, Bill. Great to join you today. And I just want to clarify right off the top that because Piers has the same last name that I do, I am not in any way related to that man, ever.
You just ran away with my first joke of the day. So no relation.
Sorry, but yeah. And the other thing is,
no relation.
Based on the fact that this guy has continuously bashed the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the very foundation that this nation was built upon, makes me wonder why anybody even considers anything he says relevant anymore. I don't even know why we give him the time of day, other than he's out there and I guess a few people are listening.
Well, let's just go down that road for a second, Jan, because it's a little side street, but it's a very interesting one. Piers Morgan is in the same category of people as Kathy Griffith and all the rest of these, D-list celebrities that are looking for attention by making a tweet that's, kind of outrageous. And you make an interesting point that people have said, why give them the attention? Why even bring it up? Nobody's listening to them. But there's something actually really interesting going on out there. I think, Jan, I'd like to get your take on this.
Okay.
Especially since the inauguration of Donald Trump. I am seeing in comment sections on YouTube, Facebook, all of these social media, you would look at any kind of a conservative video or a liberal video, and on YouTube, the comments would be 90-10, 95-5, heavily in favor of the left. Now it's about 50-50. People are coming out and defending Donald Trump in these anonymous comment sections. He's being defended everywhere. People that criticize him and these social justice warriors are being mocked openly by their peers. And, pardon the phrase, and I think that what has happened is by fighting back, we have given encouragement to the huge number of people out there who have felt the way that we do and simply have been bullied into silence by the intimidation of the violent left.
That is true. I do agree with you on that. And I think people from Piers' corner of the world also, Bill, I know for a fact there are pockets of people there who want their gun rights back because they've seen, and especially with the number of refugees that have come into their company and into their country and the mayhem that has ensued, where disarmed citizens are suddenly very vulnerable to attacks by people who come from a different culture entirely and will not assimilate. I think people there, I know because I've trained some of them. They come to America on vacation, and for some reason, they end up at my gun range. I've trained, Bill, people from 9 different countries and every state in America in my firearms training program. A police officer from the UK, as a matter of fact, came here, and even though people from that corner of the world are very sensitive to firearms because they've been without them for so long, they are beginning to see it is their only way to defend innocent life there. Now, they are far removed from the whole Constitution and Bill of Rights thing that, and the ability to understand that our Second Amendment isn't about self-defense. Originally, it was about, and is still about, to most of us who really understand it, it's about keeping tyranny at bay. And Pierce, see, the very thing he talked about on his Twitter feed, the very thing
I was just going to say, Jen,
to eliminate the First Amendment. The Second Amendment is how we keep people like Pierce and people who don't understand the true meaning of the Second Amendment from removing the remaining Bill of Rights. The Second Amendment is all we have to keep
absolutely
the remaining Bill of Rights. So,
no, absolutely right. And I would imagine that on that gun range, you must get a chance to see these people. As you say, many of them never had any experience with firearms before. They're Europeans or whatever. You must have an opportunity to see people's faces just kind of light up. It's a strange look. I've seen it many times on a gun range with people who've never fired a gun before. It's not right. This kind of what the left would accuse us of. It's not this kind of intoxicated woohoo, let's start blowing rounds off into the ceiling. It's this kind of a quiet awareness of the fact that they are now capable of defending themselves, that the whole world has changed for them.
It is amazing. And I can tell you, I had a police officer from the UK come here. They were in America on vacation, and he said, we have to visit the gun cave. And he ended up signing up for my class. And even though he is a police officer in the UK, and he served in the military there, and by the way, he was already an amazing shot, but his wife was here on vacation with him, and she ended up taking the class with him. And she was totally sensitive to being around firearms at all. And she was fascinated with the fact that I walk around this range with a loaded chambered firearm in my belt in a holster. And yes, they've been without firearms for so long that there's a whole awareness that is raised once they see that it's not like the Wild West here in America, that all kinds of people, law-abiding citizens, carry guns and are armed and trained. And one of the things that I teach in my classes always is that we don't have guns to kill people, that guns save lives. And see, it's the whole narrative that they've been fed for decades, which has brainwashed so many people, is that guns kill people. And the media fails to tell them that over 2 million times each year in America, law-abiding citizens pull guns and save lives. And in many instances, the triggers never
that
pull.
Little fact gets left out a lot, I've noticed. That is really it's a profound insight, because you can tell on people's faces. You can see the moment where they change. But let's do this, Jan. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, you can help me deconstruct that little tweet of his bit by bit and kind of show it for the kind of nonsense that it really is. I'm Bill Whittle. This is the Hot Mic Show. We'll be right back.